beat them up, in practice. We just want to teach them how to play and teach them basic fundamentals and let them go play on Saturday. But we probably eliminated most of the hitting during practice. And one of the things that I've always said was this, and most football players have heard this at one time or another in their lives, that this game is 90% mental. But I had a hard time as a football coach understanding if the game is 90% mental, why do we spend 95% of the time working on the physical part of it? So we work quite a bit of the time on the mental part of the game.
Yeah, and you know what? And a lot of times, I guess if you work on that aspect, the whiteboard aspect, looking at film and all that stuff, that actually makes you a smarter team, a more prepared team. I mean, because you can lift all the weights and do all the stuff on the field, repetition over and over and over again. But the end result is, if you don't study that playbook, or if you don't know, if you don't know how to read this defense, or, I guess I'm in your corner. I guess that's what I'm saying, is that I totally understand that.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, the body only has so many hits that it can take.
Right.
And we try to eliminate as many of those as we can for the players and try to keep our guys healthy. One of the things I tell our coaches every week, get them to the game. They don't need to prove to me that they're tough during the course of the week. My chances improve of us winning if our good players are there on Saturday. So let's don't beat them up in practice.
Yeah, and that needs to be the recipe for a lot of these coaches, really starting at the high school level, because you see a lot of stuff and you're like, oh my God, these kids gonna be dead before they even get to Friday.
You know what? And it's scary too, because I have grandsons, man, and to see how some of these guys coach and what they put emphasis on is it's amazing to me that more kids are not getting hurt, especially when you got guys that, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to anybody, but guys just coming off the street with no training, trying to coach 8-year-olds. I think that's totally unfair to those 8-year-old kids trying to play tackle football, and, they're trying to prove how tough they are.
And it happens all the time. This is the HBCU Report. Rob Calloway on the line right now with Coach Rod Broadway. He is the head football coach of the North Carolina A&T Aggies. The Aggies in action versus South Carolina State University in Orangeburg. And so before I let you go, Coach, you've given us so much great information and so much great perspective. I just have to ask you this. We just lost the late, great, well, he is late, great now, Hugh Hefner. Any thoughts on Hugh, Coach?
Yeah, that was my running partner. No, I don't. I don't. I just saw on the internet this morning where he passed, and God bless his family.
And those were some great articles, right, Coach? Great articles.
Yeah, back in the day, I guess. Boy, you something.
All right, Coach. He is Coach Rod Broadway, head coach of the North Carolina A&T Aggies, in action this weekend versus South Carolina State with I said 8 o'clock. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff from Orangeburg. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you later in the season, okay?
My pleasure, brother.
All right, always great stuff from Coach Rod Broadway. Really appreciate him for joining the show this morning. James Spady, the head football coach of the Alabama A&M Bulldogs, joins us on the other side of the break. It is homecoming on the campus of Alabama A&M, or up on the hill as they call it. So we will talk with Coach Spady coming up next. This is the HBCU Report. Don't forget, follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at HBCU Report. And don't forget to check out our content partners, sportsnewsandbrews.com. When we're not here, we're there. And there is sportsnewsandbrews.com.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
HBCU sports fans, you finally have a voice. The HBCU experience lives here. This is the HBCU Report with Rob Calloway.
This is the HBCU Report, being heard via Spreaker.com and now the Two Live Stews Radio Network. Another Saturday morning. Oh, man, thank you guys for tuning into the show, however you may be listening. Now, for all my folks, all my Bulldogs, it is homecoming on the campus of Alabama A&M University, up on the hill, as they call it. But anyway, right now being joined on the line by a good friend of the show, Coach James Spady. He is the head football coach of those Alabama A&M Bulldogs. First of all, Coach, thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome, Rob. But I don't know what was that shade that you just.
You know this shade. You know this shade all the way.
Coming on the hill. That's all that needs to be
said.
Yeah,
you know this is shade all the way from the mean streets of Montgomery, Alabama, brother. So how you doing, man?
Haters go hate, brother.
You're right. Haters go hate. Yeah, say what you say. Say whatever you want to say. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Oh man, I can't complain, man. Good to have you back on the line, man. Always a pleasure talking to you. So, let's talk about this season. Got off to not a favorable start, but the one thing I will say is that the opponents that you guys took on the first 3 weeks, oh my God, I don't know too many SWAC teams that would have been ready for Alabama, Birmingham, Vanderbilt, and South Alabama back to back to back. That's a whole lot. So how has this prepared you guys for SWAC play?
There were two ways that I was looking at that, during the preseason. Number one, just the idea that playing that kind of competition could have you battle tested. I mean, if you can navigate that part of your season, your team is pretty well tested by the time you get through that 3-game stretch, and that was the positive spin. That's the way we looked at it going in, and we tried to make sure our kids understood we got to play well, and you got to go out and compete no matter who you're playing, and hopefully on the back end of that you feel pretty well battle tested. The other thing that I was looking at, maybe a more negative outlook, was you got to stay injury free as much as you can, because a schedule like that can tax you physically, and if it tax you physically, it could ruin any chance you have to be competitive, in your conference schedule. And so, by the grace of God, I think we got through that thing, fairly healthy. We have some guys that are nicked up and things like that, but we've been able to, next man up kind of mentality, and we've been able to work our way through it. So, hopefully it's going to be a benefit to us.
Absolutely. Well, you all opened up SWAC play last weekend with a 30-13 victory over Texas Southern. I heard they brought that band down to Huntsville with them. So I'm sure it was a treat for all the band fans out there between the marching MMW, the marching maroon and white, and the Ocean of Soul. I'm sure that everybody got their fix.
They did. It was Friday night before the game. They had a little battle of the bands.
Oh, they did.
Stadium, and yeah, they did. And I thought it was a pretty nice turnout. Just to watch those guys go after each other, and two pretty good bands. It was entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this weekend, you got a big one against University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, a team that, in my opinion, they've really been turning this thing around under Coach Coleman, and things seem to be on the upswing for Arkansas Pine Bluff, a team that usually is forgotten in the conference. When you look at this team on tape, what are some of the things that you see compared to your Bulldog squad?
Well, a lot of respect is due to UAPB. They're like you just said, an up-and-comer, so to speak, and I mean that with all due respect. Tremendous amount of respect for Coach Coleman. He's put together, what is a fairly young football team. They've assembled some talent, and you watch them on film, and they're an able football team. They're riding high right now. They had a big win. It was a statement win for them the other day and last weekend. And, that's going to help them in terms of their level of confidence going into this weekend. So, we better be ready to match that intensity or exceed it and have in order to have a chance to come away with a win.
Oh, yeah, and that's what it's all about because it's homecoming. And you want that win on homecoming. It's nothing. I guess it's only 2 games that really matter, right? And that's homecoming and the Classic. Because that's how it is at Bama State.
Let's be honest. That's what our folks look for. The Bulldog faithful. They want us to they want us to win homecoming. They want us to win the Classic. They'd love for us to go to a championship, but those are the real important things. And you know what? I'm a football coach, and for me, I understand what their feelings are. But for me, every game is a classic or a homecoming. Mm-hmm. They're all very important, especially when you're trying to compete for a conference championship, which is our goal. I want to win every one of them, and this is just the next one up. It happens to be pretty important because it is homecoming.
You're right about that. This is the HBCU Report. Rob Calloway on the line with James Spady. He is the head football coach of the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. They are in action this weekend versus the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. It is homecoming on the campus of Alabama A&M, or up on the hill, as they say. So it's going to be a good time. I've been to homecoming now, Coach. I know it's a great time up there. So I'm not trying to poo-poo on homecoming now. Cause this is
well, good.
No,
because that's disrespectful.
No, man.
We do. We have a very good homecoming game day atmosphere. It's really nice because I'm a college football purist. I enjoy the tradition and the spectacle and the pageantry of college football, and this is second to none as far as I'm concerned. Of course, I'm biased, but it's second to none as far as I'm concerned, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Like I said, I cannot hate on it. I've always had a great time. But moving forward, you mentioned wanting to compete for a SWAC championship. Now we know that this will be the final year of the SWAC football championship. What are your thoughts on that?
Originally I was completely opposed. I didn't have the facts, and then when I was armed with the facts, I realized that there's really only really one viable option for us in terms of going forward. Now there's some things that we're going to have to work out as a conference. Playing a full conference schedule again, maybe that's something that's on the table. I'm not sure, but there's some things like that we have to work out. But to throw our support and our collective work behind the Celebration Bowl, it allows us in the MEAC to set ourselves apart from other FCS conferences. Who else in FCS is going to be playing in a bowl game? And then if you're lucky, as an HBCU, you might get a playoff game against Montana or somebody.
North Dakota.
You have to go. Right, you have to go on the road. And so, I've always been of a mindset that, we should take our ball and go play somewhere else, and figuratively speaking.
Right.
And so for us to be involved in what could be, something that's a trailblazer kind of event for FCS football, I'm behind it 100%. And if the SWAC championship game has to go away for us to make that, something that's the FCS Rose Bowl, so to speak, and I'm just kind of trying to whack a little bit. But
oh no, because it is because it'll be in that Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Hey, it is, yeah.
And if that game has to go away for us to make it that way, then I'm in support of that because again, I'll go into homes and try to sell recruiting to kids and their families, and then you have something that other folks can't point to as a benefit at the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to us going forward with trying to make the Celebration Bowl something that's supposed to be very special for both conferences.
Well, my only thing is that I see the log jam that ends up happening in the MEAC from time to time with them not having a championship game, and then you might end up with Central, South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, Bethune-Cookman. Like in 1 year, you ended up with all 4 of those teams with a share of the conference, and then you had to go ahead.
Yeah, I recognize that could be a potential. But that's something that we have to work out as a conference, and try to avoid being in that position by making sure our tiebreakers are solid, making sure that we have the mathematics you know, in order so that we're not having 4 or 5 teams tied for a championship and then